GotQuestions.org continues. Some people came to Jesus and they asked him why his disciples did not fast like the Pharisees and those of John's disciples who had remained loyal to the Pharisaic traditions. And Jesus' response is given in the 3 short parables that we read about. All right, let's keep reading their answer here. They go on to say, the first one, right, remember there's 3 parts. The first one is a parable of a bridegroom with his groomsmen at a wedding feast. Jesus' point in that story is that the fasting during the wedding feast is pointless. Again, Yeshua is simply giving us common sense, anecdotal advice, and this would have made a little bit more sense to the first century recipients. Maybe we don't have as much of a big deal about fasting and feasting and wedding and all of that. We don't have all of those details linked together maybe in today's religious communities. Maybe in Judaism they still do. But nothing really surprising about this aspect of the story. They go on to say that in this story, Jesus is the bridegroom, and while he is present in this world, it is a time of celebration. Why? Because he is the fulfillment of their Messianic prophecies. And I completely, 100% agree with this aspect of their answer. Yeshua giving the part of the story to help them understand his identity, right? I am the long-awaited bridegroom, right? In this marriage between God our Father, I'm the bridegroom, and Israel, you are the bride. And so now is not the time to fast and mourn, but now is the time to drink and rejoice, right? Let's get married. They go on to say, Jesus himself said that he came to fulfill the law, reference from Matthew 5:17. And again, I agree with the general base understanding of the word fulfill, right? We're not going to go into what the Greek means and the nuances and things like that. The general aspect of fulfill is that, yes, Jesus fulfills the prophecies. Jesus fulfills the expectations of the righteous requirements laid out in the Torah of Moshe. So I don't have a problem with that general understanding of fulfill. When we take that nuance to the perspective of or the interpretation to the nuance and perspective of fulfill equals or is equated with we don't have to do it anymore because Jesus fulfilled it, that's when I draw the line and say, well, that's not quite what Jesus is going to agree with, especially if you go back to that Matthew 5:17 passage and study it out. They go on to say to continue fasting with Jesus present is akin to fasting and being mournful during a wedding celebration in which the groom is present. And again, that just kind of makes sense to me, right? Just common sense. Why would you mourn and fast if it's a wedding, right? Weddings are all about rejoicing and celebrating and merrymaking, and so you want to have lots of strong drink and let it flow freely, I guess. All right. They go on to say the other 2 parables, which we read about, which are similar, make the same point. And let me just pause for a second. They're going to link all 3 parables together as basically Yeshua teaching the same principle, just 3 different ways or 3 different parables. We could maybe say that they are linked together since they're all kind of grouped together in the way we read them. Or I've heard sermons pick them apart and say that they're slightly different aspects or different angles that Yeshua's taking different stories. First he's going to talk about himself being the bridegroom, and then he's going to shift and discuss the fact that Christianity has overtaken Judaism or something like that. So we could go either way. I've heard sermons go both ways. So they say that the first one says that you don't put a new patch on an old garment, and the second one says that you don't put new wine into an old wineskin. So I think what GotQuestions is going to do is they're going to link the last 2 parables directly together. And so let's watch how they do this, and be careful to notice how they interpret the symbols and the meanings in these particular anecdotes. In the first parable, they say, if you put a new patch on an old garment, what's going to happen is when the new patch shrinks due to washing, it's going to tear away from the older garment, and that will make the tear worse.